All right, so we're live and I'm back. And 2 days in a row, I'm giving you some material. And this is my first episode of Let's Talk Hoops. And pretty much what it's going to be is it's just going to be basketball based topics where I can kind of separate it from my regular podcast. And like I say, we're just going to talk hoops, whether it's breaking down NBA stuff, whether it's talking about college basketball, high school basketball, bringing on different athletes, basketball players, coaches to talk about the game, or just me and my thoughts. It's just going to be a total and complete basketball show. Jesus Christ, I'm over here stuttering. But for this first episode, I got my guy Tyler Blackman on, high school basketball coach and a college basketball player. So we're going to sit here and just talk a little bit of hoops. No Facebook. We're not going to talk any of the political stuff that you might would expect us to talk about. But no, we're going to have a great time on here talking basketball, man. What's up, Tyler?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Not much. I tried to give you a nice little introduction, but would you introduce yourself for the audience?
Yeah, so like AC said, my name's Tyler Blackman, from born and raised here in Bartow County, Georgia. I've been on the show before. It kind of caused a stir, so we're not going to talk about that. And like you said, I played at Cass High, then played at Excel Christian Academy in Cartersville, Georgia. Then went on to play at Bryan College in Dayton, Tennessee. Then I got into coaching when I got out of college. So now I'm actually by trade, I'm an electrical contractor, but I coach high school basketball on the side to help young men, and don't make any money. If anything, I do get a paycheck, but if anything, it costs me money to coach. But you got to do what you got to do to help these young men grow and become better basketball players, better young men. So that's what I do.
All right, so you're talking about coaching. What made you get into coaching?
Well, like I said, I played at Cass High School as a freshman. Played for Eric Harris. Um, then after that, after my freshman year, he resigned. I loved playing for him as a freshman. Great man, great coach. Then after my freshman year, I transferred to Excel Christian, where I played for Josh Cowart. A lot of the guys that listen to your podcast probably know Coach Cowart. They probably played for him in middle school at Cass Middle, but played at Excel Christian for 3 years for Josh Cowart. And the impact that he and our assistant coach, Gary Bouye, had on my life, they were like second fathers to me. I mean, I feel like I could talk to them about things that I couldn't talk to my dad about. Um, and the impact that they had, the positive impact they had on my life, I knew at a young age that I wanted to be a basketball coach, just so I could uh, help guide and direct young men the way that they did me. And then I went off to college, was playing basketball, played my freshman year, had a good freshman season, played my sophomore year. We won the conference championship, had a really solid year as an individual player as a sophomore. And then going into my junior year, I was going up to campus. It's only about 2 hours away, uh, about twice a week for workouts. And a week before I was going to move on to campus for my junior year, I was up there for workouts and I passed out. Um, Woke up and went to the hospital. Found out that I had a heart condition, that I couldn't play anymore. And so I came home. Um, I was depressed. Went through a year. I was drinking a lot because I didn't know what to do with myself. Because the thing that I had loved more than anything in my life had been taken away from me. And then I got a phone call one day, and to this day I don't know how he found out who I was. Don't know how he got my phone number, but Greg Scott, God rest his soul, at Cass High School, uh, called me and introduced himself and said that he had heard about what had happened to me, and just thought that it would be good if I could come meet with him and talk about getting on his staff as an assistant coach. And that was in 2000. That was a 2011 2012 season. Was my first year as a coach at Cass High. I was coaching the JV and helping with the varsity with Coach Scott. So that's kind of how I got into it.
That's crazy that he even knew who you were. Yeah. RP to Coach Scott. It's talk about Coach Scott, and I learned so much from Coach Scott. And one of the funniest things I learned from him before I knew anything about basketball analytics was never to take long twos. There's nothing wrong with shooting in mid range, but don't shoot long twos. Because I remember like one time in practice, I pulled up for what I thought was a three, but my feet just didn't check the line. Long two. He goes, worst shot in basketball.
Worst shot in basketball. That's right.
And I'm like, what?
That's
right.
right.
What are you talking about? He was like, it's the same effort as a three, but you only got 2 points for it. Worst shot in basketball. Get a better shot. And I'll be on 2K now, and I'll still use that if I see somebody take a long two. Worst shot in basketball.
Yeah. So you take a half-inch step back and you get 3 points.
and nothing should change about your release, the amount of effort you put into the shot or anything.
That's right.
And off mic, we had a conversation because I told you I'm planning to get into coaching in the next couple of years. And part of it is some of the same stuff you're talking about. Is I had some coaches who I was really comfortable with, could talk to and learn things from. But also, I play pickup basketball. And I see so many young people learning how to play basketball the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, I get that you like what your favorite NBA players do, but for one, you're probably not going to be them.
Yeah.
And more importantly, in order for you to do what they do, you have to be able to do the basic things right first. Steph Curry doesn't get to shoot from 35 feet without being able to shoot from 25. And if you see what type of effort he puts into perfecting his game, it's a slap in the face to him to think that you can do the same with the half-ass effort.
Yeah, and that's what, and I call it the Curry effect. And at first I was completely against these kids, thinking, oh man, Steph Curry's doing it, I can do it. Well, that I'm not against them thinking that, but like you said, you got kids that are in the 7th grade that can't hardly get the ball to the rim from the free throw line, thinking they can pull up from 30 feet, 35 feet, and that's just not how it works. And it's funny you say that. I had a kid, he played for me at Cass, my second year coaching at Cass. Then the following year after that, when I went to Excel Christian to coach, I walked in the first day of practice over there, and there he was. His name was Darius Thrower, and he is the best shooter I have ever coached. And I mean, if he got to the elbow, it was a layup. I mean, because his dad drilled it in his mind until he was like in the 8th grade. His dad never let him shoot a three because he wanted to make sure that his mechanics and his release, his follow through, everything was right. And you do that by taking shots in the paint, short corner jump shots, then moving to the elbow, then moving back. And a lot of kids don't realize that. A lot of kids just think, oh, I see Steph doing it, I can step out here and do it. Like you said, it's a slap in the face to all the hard work and all the hours that he put in to become what he is. Because as much as I hate to say it, I was of course, being big, slow, and white. I love Larry Bird, and I love Reggie Miller, and Ray Allen, but I just don't think that anybody's ever shot the ball the way Steph Curry can.
Absolutely not, because I don't think anyone has had the ability to shoot the way he does, also the handle to get to the spot as quickly as he does. And Steph can finish at the rim. It's not your traditional finishing at the rim, but he can finish. He can finish at the rim.
He's scoring the paint.
Yep. Yeah, and because he can do that, because he's a 3-level scorer, you can't pick and choose your spots of where you want to shade him and favor him. So you talk about that in the shooting piece. How many times have you gone into the gym, played pickup, you got picked up as soon as you walked in the gym, low-key mad, like, hey, I kind of like to shoot before I start running. And it's 3-4 games in before you can even buy a jumper.
Well, what I do is and it's funny you say that. When my game, of course, in high school I pretty much played wherever I wanted to play, but in college, my game, I was a 3-point shooter. That was what I did in college, and and now when I walk in the gym, I don't I don't try to get picked up like first off the rip. I always I even won't even put my shoes on until I walk over. I'll go to one of the side goals, and I'll do what I've been doing it since high school. It's called rim flips, right up under the rim. You got to make like 15 from each spot, all 5 spots right in front of the rim. Then I'll shoot like 20, 25 free throws before I'll even put my shoes on, so I can't get picked up. So it's funny you asked that. That's the way I handle it. I won't play until I get warmed up.
And now that I'm almost 30, I have to do the same because, early 20s, it's like, hey, if I can't buy a bucket, I'll get to the basket, do other things to stay out there. Now it's like, man, that first step ain't what it used to be. The lift ain't what it used to be.
Can't play D like you used to.
I don't play defense anymore. Like I'm not even.
I stay on one of the floor.
I'm not even in the passing lane getting lazy passes no more. Only time you're gonna get some good hard on ball defense out of me is game point when it matters. Other than that, defense is optional. But it's knowing that, hey, I got to go put up these shots, and I know if I can't find my jumper, okay, we're going right to the block, and we're just gonna shoot there. We're gonna go to the free throw line to find that sweet spot. But getting back to coaching, one part of coaching is dealing with parents. How is it? How is it dealing with parents, especially the parents who don't understand the game as well as they think they do, and they don't have a rational view of their child's talent and potential?
Well, what I do is, especially with the varsity, because I'm a head JV coach and assistant varsity coach. If a parent comes to me that I don't want to talk to, I say, hey, you need to go see Coach Coward. you can go talk to the boss man. Don't talk to me about it. That's so I'll pass it along to him. But every now and then you get those parents that think that their kid is the next coming of MJ, and they think that they know everything, and it's tough to deal with. It really is. I try to get. First of all, you have to keep your cool. You can't get frustrated and lose your cool and lose your temper with them. But like you said, it's difficult to deal with. I try to pass it along to Coach Cowart when I can, but every now and then it's a JV coach, and one thing that you find is a parent will want to talk to you about another kid's playing time and why they're getting more playing time than their son. And the way I handle it, and I learned this from Coach Scott. The response is always, I will not discuss another player's playing time with you, but I'll tell you anything and everything your son can do to earn more playing time. And so that's the way I tend to go about it, especially when it comes to minutes.
Okay, so as a JV coach, I'm pretty sure that a lot of your philosophy is built off of the philosophy of your head coach. Am I correct?
Oh, without a doubt, especially when it's my high school coach that I played for.
Right. So how difficult is it as far as managing personnel when it's because I've seen coaches try to fit square pegs in round holes.
Yeah.
Coaches who want to run a slow paced form of basketball with half court offense and a lot of shooting, but they don't have shooters. They have a bunch of athletes who want to press and run, and that's more suited to their talent. How do you maintain that balance between what's comfortable for you, but what's best for your players?
Well, at the JV level, it's more about player development and getting them in tune and ready to perform at the varsity level. So with us at the JV level, you try. Of course, you want to win. Without it, I mean, you want to win games, but you will. You got to kind of pick and choose, and the JV level is for this. What players fit your system on the varsity, and so those players that fit the system that you're running on the varsity team will get a lot more playing time than those that don't. Now, I have had some JV teams where none of those players really fit that system, but it's especially at small private schools, it's all you have. Those are the only players you got. So you got to then it becomes more about skill development. than putting them in the system, because you
Did you
can
play?
always put. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go ahead. I thought you were done with your answer.
You can always kind of work their bodies and change their bodies to make them fit more of your varsity uh, style as they get older. But if you got a team full of those cats that don't really fit, then it becomes, like I said, it becomes more about skill development at the JV
Did you
level.
did you play for Coach Tays?
No, I coached with Coach Tays. My first year at Cass, he and I coached the JV, and then of course I was on the bench and helping with the varsity too.
You talk about somebody who develops talent, just straight
Yeah,
skill development, harping on the fundamentals. I was telling some friends, and no knock at him being a head coach or anything. 'Cause I love Coach Tays. Probably the favorite coach I've ever
yeah,
played for. Is if I was starting the system, I would want Russell Tays on my bench just because he'll give you an hour and a half practice and you may scrimmage 5 minutes, but you
yeah.
walk away from that practice so much of a better basketball player.
And he's coaching at the York Institute. It's a high school in just right around Knoxville, and his team made it to the state championship like 2 years ago. He's the head coach,
No
and Blake
shocking.
Thompson.
Is Blake
Huh?
coaching with him? Is Blake coaching with him?
Blake is. Blake's his stepson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
Blake's helping him out.
I love the Tays family. My mom and Miss Tays had a great relationship when she taught at Cass. So playing for Coach Tays was super cool. I was never more well-rounded after my freshman year when I no longer played for him, just because of the way we practiced, the stuff that you had to work on every day. Because man, I wasn't going home working on anything. But
Did you play
those
for Coach
three,
Riddle?
I said his bench. And I will and I won't speak about that experience on a podcast. So
That's another one, man. Rest in peace, Coach Riddle. He was difficult to get along with sometimes, but the older I got, the more I got to be around him. He was a good dude. I mean, I know different people have different opinions about him, but I'll say and I had a negative opinion of him until I was around him when I was coaching at Cartersville, and I got some respect for Coach Riddle in different ways.
fair enough. So you talk about. I think that what you do at the high school level is so important, and you see that there's this really a basketball pipeline that different players go through in order to go from recreation, middle school, high school, onto college, and even on the next level. But you also have the AAU piece that gets put in between there. And it seems that AAU gets a bad rap for what happens in that culture, but it also gives players the opportunity to showcase their talents against top end talent, get exposure in places that they may not. As a high school coach, how do you feel about AAU basketball?
I think that AAU basketball has its pros and cons. Um, the pros, like you said, is you're getting to face top end talent that are all, uh, kind of on. So you might say you play the Atlanta Celtics, and they've got 6 of the top 10 players in the state on that roster. At the same time, you go to Lake Point and you play in the Adidas Gauntlet tournament, and you go in there, and Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski and Gino Oriema and uh, Tom Izzo. You look around, and there's players and coaches all over the place. In that gym, because they can come and they can sit down, and they can come to a tournament and in one day see 600 players, whereas
Mhm.
used to they go to a high school game and might see 3.
Might see
they're wanting
one.
to
They're
talk
going to
to.
see one.
Might
They're
see
going to see
one.
one player, and you hope that you pop that day.
Yeah, yeah. So in regards to facing top end talent and exposure, those are two of the biggest pros. The cons are some of these AAU coaches give these kids a false sense of identity, false sense of where they are as a player, because they want them to come pay $750 and play on their AAU team. Um, so the coaching aspect of AAU, I uh, I think is a major con, because I don't think I there might be some great AAU coaches out there, but I think for the most part there's a lot of guys out there that really don't know the they don't know the game on the team level. They might know it on an individual skill level, but they also don't have the best interest of their players in mind, and not in regards to them going to college, but in regards to developing and molding young men in away from basketball.
So, what is it like when you're, and let's not make this just too personal, but when you're dealing with a player who has one identity in the school, in your construct of school, versus the identity that they have as an AAU player?
Well, luckily, like at Cornerstone Prep where I coach, um,
No.
all of our kids are all every single one of our kids are school. They're the you look up the word student athlete in the dictionary and you'll see one of their pictures. I mean, they're the epitome of student athlete. Um, so I don't really deal with that at where I'm at now. But
Mm-hmm.
when I was at Cass and when I was at Cartersville, I dealt with that. Kids come in and they're not playing a whole lot on our high school team, and you hear them talking to their buddies. Man, I was averaging 15 a game in AAU. I don't know why Coach Blackman's got it out for me. I could be the best player if he just needs to come watch my AAU games. And so that's very difficult to deal with, because the AAU game of basketball is so um, it's so loose. It's officiated very loosely. So kids are getting away with fouls that they pick up two cheap ones in the first quarter of a high school game. They're gonna sit down. Whereas in AAU, they're a lot of times they're allowed to hand check. There's not a lot of off the ball fouls called in AAU. Um, so they develop those bad habits, and like I've said, as an assistant coach, I've never really had to deal with a parent coming to me and saying, well, why isn't my kid playing as much here as he is on AAU? Because if they do, I just tell them to go talk to the head coach. So I haven't had to deal with that. But those are some of the things that I see as the big difference in high school and AAU ball is the way it's officiated, um, the way kids are allowed to just kind of free flow and do what they want, which isn't a bad thing. Basketball is a free flowing game, but sometimes those AAU coaches that you go to AAU practice and they're doing 3-on-2, 2-on-1 drill for 45 minutes. That not really they're not really learning the game, I guess is what I'm saying.
So that's interesting, and I'm gonna have a little fun here. But what do you say for the person who's like, "Hey, coach, the reason why I get to boogie in AAU is because, for one, maybe the talent around me is more complimentary, or maybe the way that I'm being coached is more suited to my style. Maybe I want to get up and run and play fast, but you want me to get here, set the offense, and we can be a better team while running the break."
Well, I'm never opposed to listening to my players' opinions. Matter of fact, and Coach Cowart does it. He pretty much, a lot of times he'll let me call the offense. He'll call the offense. He'll decide what we just kind of go back and forth with it, even though he's the head coach. But if my point guard comes to me and says, "Hey, coach, I think we need to do this," I'll listen to him. And sometimes I'll just say, "Okay." roll with it, do it. What do you want to do? And I think that's the mark of a great coach is knowing when to step in and say, this is how we do things, this is what we're going to do, and this is why we do it, and knowing when to step away and say, okay, let's just let them play for a minute and see if they can figure it out themselves. Because sometimes in a game, and I have to catch myself with this because I can develop this bad habit of coaching too much
Mm-hmm.
instead of just stepping back and saying these kids aren't dumb, these kids are good players, they can figure it out, and let them run, let them roll for 2 or 3 minutes, and eventually, most of the time, they'll figure it out. And when they don't, that's when you got to step in and do some coaching. So I see in that situation, depending on the team and depending on the players, is there's different ways to handle it. There's nothing set in stone on how to handle that situation. And that coaching is very, very fluid. You can't be rigid and set things in stone. And I've learned that, like I said, with Coach Cowart, because when I played for him, I joke with him, give him a hard time. I said, Coach, you soft, man. I said, what you mean? I said, when I play for you, I know this stuff will fly. He said, well, I've learned a lot over the last 12 years. I've played for him. I graduated 12 years ago. And I've learned that, I've been coaching. This is my 10th year, 9th or 10th year. And at first, man, I was like, this is how we're gonna do it. This is my team. You're gonna listen to me. And then over the years, it kind of evolves to where it's just like, hey, let's do what we do. If it works, it works. If not, we'll change it.
So I did a little rant a couple weeks ago, maybe it was a week ago. I don't even remember. And I was talking about basketball culture, and I was talking about how basketball players are some of the most entitled people in America. It's like basketball, and especially like in the NBA, it's like, hey, we're gonna do what the star player wants to do, or I'll leave, I'll transfer, or you know what I mean, or I'll demand a trade. Is that anything that you see at your level?
You see it, and I'm going to say this a lot. You see it sometimes a lot at public schools where
Okay.
kids think that they're better than they are. Um, and you see it at some high profile private schools. At Cornerstone Prep and Ackworth, where I coach, man, our kids, like I said, they're there for the academics first, and it just so happens that we've got some great basketball players that are great students. But at the public schools I've coached at, which is Cass and Cartersville,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that you hear things on the bench. Kid comes out of the game and he's pissed off. He goes and sits at the end of the bench. Man, I'm gonna go somewhere else. I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go somewhere else and play. And so yeah, you're right. There are some pretty big entitled babies that play this game, and I think a lot of that has to do with, like, you watch these NBA guys now. They move around so much more than they used to. I mean, used to, a guy would say, I want to be the one to turn this around. Not, I want to go team up with my buddies who's a superstar and let's go win a title. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, because these guys have to do what they got to do to get paid, because they have a life after basketball. But as far as just the basketball mentality goes, I think it all starts, and just for example, and I used to be a huge LeBron fan. I'm not so much anymore. It all kind of started uh, with him going to the Heat. And I know people are going to say, well, it really started with in Boston with their big three. And I can see
It's
that.
nowhere. It's nowhere where it really started, because if you look at championship teams throughout NBA history, there are multiple great players on those championship teams.
But the difference is they weren't getting pissed off and leaving after a season and going and teaming up with their buddies. Like, you look at this Larry Bird Celtics, for example. They had Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Danny Ainge, Dennis Johnson. They were all drafted by the Celtics. You know, Magic Johnson was drafted by the Lakers. James Worthy was drafted by the Lakers. Kareem came to the Lakers, but it was before Magic Johnson and James Worthy. So they were drafted by the Lakers. I guess really the first team I remember really forming a big three or super team was those Celtics with Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and Kevin Garnett.
What about
And
the
then once
Rockets
that
that didn't
happened,
win? What about the Pippen Barkley Rockets?
true, but that Pippen and Barkley was old and Pippen was always he wasn't Batman, he was Robin. So yeah, you're right about that. But like I said, Barkley was old, and Elijah Wan was old. Well, Elijah Wan was old. He passed his prime, and
Yeah, and they didn't like
Pippen
each other.
was Robin.
I'm just throwing stuff out there, having fun with it.
Oh yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. But yeah, I think you got that squad. Of course, Shaq going to the Lakers and having Kobe. But
Yeah, but that was
nobody knew what Kobe was. Nobody knew he was going to turn into Kobe.
right, and both of them were just making it like Shaq was making a I want to go to LA move. It wasn't even about Kobe being there, it was about him going to LA. One thing I'll say though, when you're talking about the formation of these teams, is a part of me goes, yeah, you should gut it out and try to build something where you're at. But if you're playing for a franchise who was showing themselves to be incompetent, it's like, why should I tie my legacy to your incompetence? And then also, we talked about the AAU thing is when you're playing AAU, you're no longer playing with just your high school teammates, the people from your community. Depends on which program you're playing with. You might be playing with people from across the country. And then you start going to these tournaments and these camps, you make friends, you meet these people, and y'all get cool. 8 years down the road, y'all are up for a contract, and it goes, do I want to keep playing with these people I ain't even really cool with? Or do I actually want to go play with my real friends? The people
I'm with you.
who I text and talk to. So I think that it's just it's a multifaceted thing to where, there is a basketball element to it that people talk about. Because if you look at Kevin Durant, right, him going to the Warriors was a basketball move. It was about playing a certain style of basketball with a certain group of players.
And wanting to win a title.
Right. And what he found out while he was there is there's a off-the-court aspect that I don't get here, because at OKC, a bunch of young boys didn't have wives, didn't have kids, and they were all kicking it, having fun. And he didn't have that in Golden State. So now I think, with him, Kyrie, and now James Harden being there, part of it is just, I like these people. These are people I hang out with off the court. So why not put our greatness on the court together? And I don't think that part gets talked about enough, because it's just not going towards other talent. It's also going towards other personalities.
True. Yeah, I see your point there. And for the record, I think this Brooklyn team is going to fail miserably. Not because of anything, but Kyrie, because I think Kyrie is a cancer to any team he plays on. Because his attitude sucks. He dominates the ball. Whereas you got and James Harden dominates the ball, but
that was by design.
More,
that was by design in Houston, though. That he doesn't have to play that way.
Yeah, he didn't play that way in OKC.
And he hasn't been in Brooklyn.
Yeah, and KD, KD is probably the most skilled 3-level scorer that I think there's ever been. A lot of that has to do with the fact that he's 6'11" and can do what he can do. But I think that team's going to fail, and it's because of Kyrie.
So I'm torn on it. I read today that the Cavs are talking about buying out Andre Drummond, and Andre will go sign with Brooklyn. If that happens, it would change how I feel about him. I don't like a lot of what Kyrie does. I don't like, but to contextualize it again, understanding that Kyrie's been the best basketball player on his team most of his life, he came into that Cleveland situation where they were just terrible, god-awful team. LeBron comes back. They had a totally different offseason plan. They were going to get Gordon Hayward, and they were going to start building a winner around Kyrie. LeBron comes, it doesn't happen. Should Kyrie be excited that LeBron came? Yes, because now you get your championship, you get your shoe deal, because we're not wearing Kyrie's shoes without LeBron going to Cleveland. Just being honest. True. But again, it was a basketball situation that he wasn't necessarily happy in. So he finally, requests out, which at the time I had an issue with it, but now I've gained more information. And he's like, LeBron's not going to commit long term. So I don't know what situation I'm going to be in. I'm trying to get somewhere where I can figure out what the state of the franchise is going to be. Request a trade. Yeah. He gets traded to Boston. Didn't want to go, but goes there. It doesn't work because why they make the deep playoff run without him. So Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown are like, yeah, bro, you're good, but you're not gonna be sunning us. You see what we did without you in the playoffs. We took LeBron to Game 7 without you. And both of them have shown to be what they thought they were then. Jason Tatum just came off of NBA All-NBA year, his first All-Star game. Jaylen Brown right now at this day is looking better than Jason Tatum.
And I think Brad Stevens might be the best coach in the NBA.
We're gonna get to that because I'm gonna push back on that one. Right. But now he's finally in a situation. Kyrie is in a situation that I think he wants to be in. So even though he did take that time away, which I didn't like how he handled it, I'm not gonna tell somebody not to take time off if they're whatever they're dealing with. Even him going out, that didn't bother me because you can want to go out with your friends and not want to go to work. That could be a thing. But not communicating it, I have an issue with that. But I also understand if you're in these dark spaces, I've dealt with it before, not communicating what you have going on in your life and you kind of do what you do. And with the leverage that he has in that organization, it's like, what are y'all going to do, cut me? No. So I don't like it. But I think it's more manageable given this situation because it's somewhere where he wants to be. And, when you're somewhere that you want to be doing what you want to do, you will usually put your ego on the back burner a little bit more.
Yeah.
But to your Brad Stevens point, I think Brad Stevens is a really good coach. But I think that Brad Stevens has a way of coaching and he wants basketball to be played a certain way. And because he came from Jesus Christ.
Butler. Butler.
Yes, because he came from Butler. He's not used to dealing with great players. He's good at maximizing average to slightly above average to below average players, right? I don't know if he has the right coaching style for top end players.
Yeah. I'm with you.
And that's my pushback on Brad Stevens.
I got you. And in the NBA, you got to be a manager of talent more than a basketball coach.
Right. Unless you're Nick Nurse in Toronto where you don't have a real superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, fortunately or unfortunately for Brad Stevens, he now has Jason Tatum, a top 15 player in the league, Jaylen Brown, a top 20, who's probably going to move in that top 15 this year. And it's different. It just hits different.
Yeah.
But, we talked about what's up?
No, go ahead. I was going to say about the Hawks, but you go ahead. What's the next?
Oh, shit. Go ahead and talk about since we're on NBA, you can talk about the Hawks. Chris Brown said Brad Stevens sucks.
What Chris Brown? Which one?
Lil CB, 75 North, Lil Trill.
I got you. Hey, one of my favorite memories of CB is we was playing in like the 14 and under Eddie Lee Wilkins All-Star game, and this cat was talking trash to him, and he started just yelling because back then my freshman year at Cass, Coach Harris gave me the nickname Big Country like Bryant Reeves from Oklahoma State because he was big, he was slow, but he could play, and they started calling him Big Country, and Chris. He got the ball. He come walking up the court with it. He said, "Country." We was playing at Woodland High School. He said, "Tell him I'm about to pull this from the D," and just pulled up and drained it. That's a memory I got of CB, a good one. I got of CB.
That sounds about right.
But about the Hawks, though, man. What I was gonna ask you what you think about the Hawks, man, because Trae Young, unbelievable player. John Collins is solid. Clint Capella. They've got Bogdanovich and the other foreign guy, but I can't think of his name right now. They're both hurt right now. But I think when they're healthy, they're going to be a tough out in the playoffs. But then a couple weeks ago, there was that report that John Collins and Trae Young might not be getting along too well. So I was just going to kind of get your thoughts on that.
So I read that report, and I wish it didn't get out because I'm pretty sure it's not nearly as bad as what's actually happening in there. But Trey's super talented, super talented. And I hope that what Rondo is helping him with is the stuff he's not good at. Just being better than nothing on being better than a negative on defense. Like, can we get you to like 0 on defense, not negative?
Yeah.
And what the argument was about was John Collins was pretty much saying, "Hey Trey, you're dribbling too much. You're doing too much. You're not letting us play." And I hope Trey can find the balance between maximizing himself, but also playing a style that keeps his teammates engaged. Because, yes, Trey can give you 30 and 12 on any given night. But can you give me legit assists? Like, I want to see more hockey assists than just straight up assists. Get me the ball where I want the ball, not where you want me to have the ball when you want me to have the ball. Like, help me maximize the game.
Hit me coming off a screen and put it in my shot pocket so I can pull this three. Not every assist has to be a highlight lob to John Collins.
Exactly, and that's what I worry about because he got to spend those 2 years of, "Hey Trey, do whatever you want," because we know we're not going to win, and developing bad basketball habits. But what scares me about the Hawks is that the GM and Lloyd Pierce are on the hot seat right now, and apparently, who is it? Nate McMillan's on the bench for the Hawks. I think that's who Trey wants to be the head coach. And there's some rumblings that he may replace Lloyd Pierce. But putting your GM and your head coach, who you hired while you were rebuilding, on the hot seat in their first year with a roster that could actually make the playoffs, I don't like that for the stability of the franchise.
Yeah, and that's always been an issue in Atlanta. I mean, the only time I felt like our front office and our coaching staff was stable was when Budenholzer was GM and head coach there for like 2 years.
And I have mixed feelings on Coach Bud. I think he did his best coaching with the Hawks, but what I'm seeing him doing now with Milwaukee, and I don't think we looked at it the same way because we never thought. Well, I'm gonna say we. Basketball people didn't really see that Hawks team as a true championship contender. It's like, hey, you might get a 1 seed, you might get a 4 seed, but conference finals is your ceiling. But his inability to adjust and utilize Giannis in different ways. I'm like, all right, Coach Bud, we know you can win 60 games. Can you win 16?
Yeah.
But the Hawks have a bright future. I want Cam Reddish to finally become Cam Reddish because Cam Reddish has not consistently been Cam Reddish since high school.
Yeah, he's starting to play better. One thing that really scares me as a Hawks fan is the fact that this offseason, Trey signed with LeBron's agent. I'm just like, man, if LeBron comes calling in LA when he becomes a free agent, that might be tough.
Well, the thing is, though, Trey should be locked up for those first 7 years just because the way the NBA contracts work and him maximizing his money. But yeah, you're talking about Clutch. Clutch runs the league.
Yeah.
But hey, oh shit, we're in 45 minutes. Let's totally pivot into college hoops because you wanted to come on originally and talk about college basketball. And I told you, I don't even watch college basketball. And I'll tell you why I don't watch college basketball. Because college basketball is a totally different. Wow, Joel Embiid just hit a 1-footed three, by the way. College basketball is a totally different product than the NBA.
Oh, without a doubt.
And part of me I don't really care for it anymore because I don't like the TV product. I think the lane is entirely too clogged. I like the space that you get in the NBA, but also the arrogance of the college coaches. It kills me. And it goes back to, they say the only person who could stop MJ in college was Dean Smith. And then you see players like Donovan Mitchell pop post-college. And not saying that it wasn't because of his development, but it's also, hey, the college game isn't suited for a lot of good NBA players. And I really think that
go ahead.
And the thing that really kills me with the college game is because players now have to go to college for just that 1 year. The good players don't stay and develop. And it's a weird product where you have your one and done teams that are highly talented, but they're not grown men yet. They don't play together because, I'm sorry, you don't build cohesion in year one. Like what LeBron and AD did was crazy. Like that's not supposed to happen, It's you need years to come together. I can't keep up with these kids anymore because I'm not following high school recruiting anymore like I used to. So it's like, dang, you're not even there for 2 years for me to like remember your name. Like, shout out to Cassius Winston, or if Cassius Winston, Cassius Stanley, whichever Cassius went to Michigan State. He was there for a while. Even Ashton, the fact that Ashton was able to do 2 years at Kentucky, it's like, oh, I get to see Ashton as a freshman and as a sophomore. Oh, I see where he's worked on his game as a sophomore, and it's not him getting sent to the NBA unprepared. Because look at Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram just became an all-star last year. If he would have played a full 4 years or even 2 years, 3 years in college, he would have came into the NBA a better product, and we wouldn't have had these 3 years of like, oh, is this person a bust? Is that person a bust? No. They're not grown men yet. They don't have beer bellies yet. Like, they can't even buy beer. They still got bird chest. Grown men win in the NBA. So I said all of that to say one and done has ruined college basketball as a watching experience for me because it forces players to leave after their first year, because if you stay a second year or third year, your draft stock drops even though you're a better player and prospect.
That's what I was going to make. I think the one and done rule sucks because, like you just said, you get players that go to Duke or go to Carolina or go to Kentucky, and they're not there because they want to be there. They want to be in the NBA, and a lot of them aren't good enough to be in the NBA, but you don't find that out until they're in the NBA. But like you said, they don't have the time to develop, and you don't have the time to watch them for 3 or 4 years and kind of develop a fan relationship with them like you used to. Like, and another thing I wanted to touch on in college hoops, I was listening to it's funny because Leonard Hamilton, the head coach at Florida State, he made a comment about a month ago about somebody had made a comment to him about Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, Indiana, UCLA, all these teams struggling. And they asked him something about what do you make of all the blue bloods struggling. He said, "I'm not worried about the blue bloods. I'm just worried about us because we're one of the new bloods." And the ESPN kind of Jay Billis and a couple other guys kind of expanded on that, and they were talking about it a couple days ago. Um, Gonzaga, Villanova, Texas Tech, Texas, Florida State. There's all these Virginia, which Virginia was good years and years and years ago, but they've kind of made a comeback. Um,
Mm-hmm.
all these schools are on the rise, and these blue bloods, as they call them, are kind of falling off. And it's been a lot of fun to watch these last few years. Like last year, man. Of course, I'm a huge Florida State fan. I was so disappointed because I felt like that Seminoles team had a really good chance at making it to the Final Four. I mean, and then going into the ACC tournament, of course, we got a bye to the semis or the second round, and they're warming up on the floor when they called the ACC tournament and said it's not going to be played. Then the next day they called the NCAA tournament off, and that sucked. But I think that it's if you want to watch college basketball, and even Auburn, man, Bruce Pearl, and I think it's probably another year before he gets Auburn in sanctions, but he's turned Auburn into a fun team to watch. So if you're going to watch any college hoops, I'd say you need to watch Florida State, Auburn, Texas is fun to watch, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, all those types of schools. Oh, Baylor. If you haven't seen Baylor play this year, oh my God, they
So
are.
I listen to a college basketball podcast. I just don't watch college basketball, so I keep up with the storylines. I kind
Yeah,
of know what's going on in the sport without watching it, man. But the one and done is killing the blue bloods. When Coach K went all the way in on one and done
yeah.
because he was out on it at one point. Then he was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And I think that was some of Nike saying, "Hey, Coach K, like, we need you to."
And then he
When
signed Kyrie,
huh?
and that changed it.
And it did. And even if you look at the 2015 team, though, they just had great freshmen, but their bench was still 2, 3, and 4 year Duke players, And I think that once you lose that, you're not going to win a championship unless you have AD, Michael Kidd, Gilchrist, and that type of level freshman talent.
Well,
Because even
that
though,
Kentucky squad.
uh-huh.
Go ahead. I've done that 3 times, man. I'm sorry. That Kentucky squad was loaded with veteran talent. Other
And
than Kid Gilchrist and AD.
And that's what's missing from college basketball is the reason why Gonzaga is relevant because you may go pro out of Gonzaga, but you're not going to Gonzaga to go pro. And
That's right.
no knock on what John Calipari is doing. He's making a lot of people rich. And he's like, look, you come here, I am going to groom you to be the best NBA player that you can be. I don't think Calipari's trying to win national championships. He's creating NBA players. But it becomes, what are you trying to do? If you're at an established place where championships matter, but they don't matter because you're still getting top end recruiting classes, cool. But if you're at a Baylor, you're not an NBA factory, bro, you got to win. You got to win the Big 12. You got to unseat Kansas.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that once the NBA, which the NBA did it to themselves because their scouting department sucked and they were paying people like Kwame Brown too much money because, sorry, bro, you can't scout. It's hard to scout a high-end high school player versus the low-end talent that he consistently is playing against. You get the NBA saying, oh, no, we want to see you in college for a year. But if Adam Silver can do what he's trying to do to create this NBA farm system that's similar to European soccer, I think that college basketball becomes its own separate entity where you can still make the league from college basketball, but you're not necessarily playing college basketball to become an NBA player. It's just like, hey, I'm pretty good at basketball, but I understand where my ceiling is, and I want to go to Duke. I want to go to North Carolina. I want to go to Texas. I want to go to Georgia, whatever the college is, for 4 years and get a degree.
Yeah, because let's be real, 98 point whatever it is percent of your college athletes are never going to see the floor in the NBA or the field in the NFL.
Exactly. So, if once that farm system and the G League thing, and it really sucks that we have this COVID going on this year, because we don't get to really see the G League experiment work the way that they're trying to make it work. Yeah, they got the G League bubble, but it's going to be a little bit different. I think that's going to be good because also, man, those high schoolers thinking they're about to go to the G League and just dominate because they are better basketball players. They're 18 playing against 25, 27-year-old men who are hungry for a contract because they making $35,000 a year trying to feed, you know what I mean? Like trying to get an NBA contract so they can live that good life. They're not getting paid as handsomely as these highly recruited kids are. So
yeah, they're not making anything in the G League. AJ Mosby from Cartersville was in the G League. He was in the Hawks organization. What's Adrian doing now? Is he still trying to play, or is he playing somewhere overseas or something?
No, so when I last talked to him, he told me that he's done, and I'm not saying that he's totally done. I don't know if he's done forever, but when we last talked, he's like, "Hey, I'm almost 30. I got to get a job experience." So he's working now, and I think he's done. And I'll tell you a little bit about it off mic. It's just that,
Gotcha. I'm with you.
So real quick before we get out of here, you want to talk about your most overrated college coaches?
Most overrated college coaches? Did I mention that? Did I bring that up?
I feel like you sent it to me in the text, or I'm just pulling stuff out my ass.
Let's see. Let me pull up my phone here, and I'll tell you. I may have.
Because when you talked about it, I was like, I'm curious to see where he's going to go with this. I can't provide too much commentary on if we're going to get in the weeds, but I'm definitely here to entertain it if you're going to hit a few of the coaches who I think have been overrated, and they are at some of the more top tier programs that don't really have the championships to line up with what their coaching resumes are.
It's hard. We may have mentioned that, just kind of quickly, just off the top of my head.
Hey, if you're not prepped, we don't have to do it because you are a high school coach.
I'm not.
Let's not do it because you don't want to ruin a relationship with a possible coach a potential recruit.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
I'll say this. How about I'll tell you, and of course I'm a little bit biased. The most underrated coach in college basketball is Leonard Hamilton. And over the past 2 years, he's starting to get a little bit more love. But that man has done things at Florida State that shouldn't be being done at Florida State University. It's unbelievable what he's done.
Y'all are a better basketball school than football school. If you would have told us that.
Man, I won't talk about that right now.
Before we close it out, let's talk about one of the most impactful players of our life. He tragically passed away a year ago yesterday, and we talked a little bit about him pre-show. And I didn't want to start the show off with that because I think that's like super sad, and I want to have a good, happy show. I don't want to be in my feelings talking about Kobe. So yeah, Kobe passed away a year ago, man, and it really shook the world because it was, I think, the first superstar, especially superstar athlete of our era, that we watched, from his rookie year was 96. I was 5. I mean, I didn't watch his rookie year, but I was watching him win championships with Shaq in 2000, and to see him go away so tragically, man, and the impact that he had on people, the impact he had on the game, if you shoot a paper towel in the trash can, you're yelling Kobe, and he ain't even the best shooter that we've seen. But you got any words for Kobe and what he meant to you as a basketball player?
He didn't really resonate with me as far as me trying to mold and model my game after him because I knew my game couldn't be that type of game.
You wasn't 6'6" and
But
twitchy.
no, I was 6'6", white and slow. Let's call it like it is. Hey, I can shoot that thing. That's about it. Nah, um, Kobe, his impact on the game is unbelievable as far as a worldwide, and I think what Kobe did as a making basketball a worldwide phenomenon, he took what Michael started and just kept it going. I mean, because Kobe's known he's known all over the world, um, but and as a player, I think, and we talked about this off air. I think he is one of the most skilled, hardest working, um, hated to lose players that there has ever been. But I don't think he made I don't think he made anybody around him better on the floor. Um, and B, uh, we talked about they were unbelievable with Shaq, and he was like I told you, he wasn't Batman, he was Robin on that team. And then they were terrible. And then he got Pau Gasol, Andrew Bynum, a couple other role pieces. Derek Fisher came back to LA,
Which was
and they won a
shady to
couple
say
more
the least.
Yeah, and they won a couple more championships. Um, so I think he was an extremely talented, one of the most talented, hardworking players I've ever seen, or this world has ever seen, the basketball world's ever seen. But he is, by a lot of people, he is extremely overrated as far as being a teammate and making his teammates better. And I feel like people want to put him in that top five category so badly because he was what they grew up watching. But if you just look at it and you take your Kobe fanboy glasses off, he's to me, and I know we had this conversation that night at the hotel. Kobe's not in my top 10, and he's probably not in my top 12. He's in that top 15 category, but he's not in the top 12 in my
I can
opinion. That's just my opinion.
no, yeah, no, I can understand and respect it, and I go back and forth where he falls for me because for unlike everyone's not everyone, unlike the quote unquote GOAT, I do look at competition and the competition that he dealt with in the West during his time was real legitimate competition. He did win 5 titles when there was another dynasty that existed in his conference, and they got their 5 too. But it's I'll just end it like this. Kobe, if nothing else, Kobe's drive to be great was an inspiration that's gonna has obviously long outlived him. That's impacted so much of the NBA, and not just the NBA, but the entire sports world and people outside of the world of sports. Just talking about that Mamba mentality that if it doesn't come natural to you, you just work your ass off until you get there.
Yeah.
Kicking them while they're down, and once you smell blood, you attack because that's how you have to attack life. That's how you have to attack your passion. If you want to be great
Yep.
at something, you have to work your ass off. And it doesn't matter what you're naturally gifted at, what comes easy for you, whatever the situation is, that hard work beats talent with no work any day. And I think that's what Kobe
Without a
is.
doubt.
And I think that's what Kobe meant to this generation, man. And
Yeah,
for
and
that, hey,
like you just said. Go ahead.
I was ready to close it out because I was trying to keep it under an hour.
Yeah, like you just said, man. His drive, his willing to work and be the first one in the gym and last one to leave. It's second to none. I mean, and that's what that is why I respect Kobe's game, and that is all the respect that I have for Kobe is all that part of his Mamba mentality. All right, one question about him before we get off the air. Do you think that 62 he dropped in his last game was scripted and planned?
No, I don't. It inspired one of my best Instagram, Snapchat rants ever. Oh my God, it was beautiful. I was like on the phone with my mom, and I ended up having to say, "Mom, I gotta go." And my mom was watching the game, and she's not a sports fan by any means. So I just think he was like, you know what? It's one more game. I can pull it out for one game.
Yeah.
And that's something that comes with age. But no, I think he earned it, man. I mean, it was crazy. He took the headlines from the 7-3-9 Warriors. Ooh, I hated that team. But hey, y'all, man, this was episode 1 of Let's Talk Hoops. I'm so thankful that Tyler came on to talk hoops with me on my first episode. We're gonna have some more guests coming on to talk hoops, man. It just popped into my head. I might reach out to some local legends, and we can start telling some good Cartersville, Summerhill, Bottom Gym basketball stories, because I think that's a great thing that we can talk about, man. But hey, I think we'll be back next week with Let's Talk Hoops. We'll see, because I got a lot more other interviews coming soon. So I hope y'all enjoyed it, man. Again, thanks, Tyler, so much. Big baby,
All right, man. Take it easy.